What's up everybody, it's Chinstraps, and today I'm going to take you on a journey through the world of Pokemon. Specifically, I will be discussing my first attempt at a hardcore Pokemon Nuzlocke. I've done a few normal Nuzlockes before, but I've also had plain wheat thins before, and while they're fine, Tomato Basil is so much better. Hardcore Nuzlocking, in my opinion, is a way more fun and challenging way to play Pokemon. It's the Tomato Basil of Nuzlocking. I'm sure most of you already know the basic rules at this point. You have to catch the first Pokemon you see in a route. If a Pokemon faints, you can't use it anymore. You know the drill. But for a hardcore Nuzlocke, there are some other rules added to increase the difficulty. You can't use any healing items in battle, excluding held items. You can't overlevel your Pokemon for gym battles or the Elite Four, and you have to battle on set mode. Another rule I used for this Nuzlocke is something called Dupes Clause, which just means you can only catch one Pokemon of a specific evolution line. And finally, I didn't allow myself to use legendaries, gift Pokemon, or static Pokemon. And by static Pokemon, I mean encounters that guarantee a certain Pokemon, like when you wake up a Snorlax. I also got to have the joy of nicknaming all of my Pokemon, and through their names you will see exactly how uncreative I am. For my first hardcore Nuzlocke, I wanted to choose a simple Pokemon game that I've played through many times. Pokemon Leaf Green, down to the office, please. Pokemon Leaf Green, down to the office. I really like the third generation Pokemon games, and the Kanto region is about as simple of a region as it gets, so choosing Leaf Green was a pretty easy decision. But now that we have an understanding of how the Nuzlocke will work, let's just jump into it. So like any Kanto playthrough, I was greeted by Professor Oak. I named my player Evan because that makes sense, logically, and I named my rival Derek, after my cousin Derek, who I grew up playing a lot of Pokemon with. After entering the world of Pokemon, I made a beeline to the tall grass like an absolute lunatic, but Professor Oak stopped me before I got killed by a wild Rattata or Pidgey. Oak dragged me to his lab where Derek and I both got our starter Pokemon. I chose Bulbasaur and named him Wildvine, after that one alien from Ben 10, and Derek chose Charmander because he just wants to watch the world burn. I easily defeated him in our first battle. I quickly went to Viridian City and then came back to Pallet Town to deliver Oak's parcel. Oak then gave me and Derek the Pokedex and some Pokeballs. The Nuzlocke had officially begun. Now for some rapid fire encounters. In Route 1, I caught a Pidgey and named it Ace. In Route 22, I caught a Rattata and named it Ratatouille. In Route 2, I caught a Caterpie and named it Ash, after Ash Ketchum. And in the Viridian Forest, I caught a Weedle and named it Barry, after Barry B. Benson.
You like jazz?
These encounters were pretty much what I expected, but man, getting a Mankey or a Nidoran would have been so much better for Route 22. Anyways, after making my way through Viridian Forest, I arrived to Pewter City. Like I mentioned earlier, I needed to make sure my Pokemon weren't over-leveled for Brock's gym. His strongest Pokemon is Onix at level 14, so I couldn't use any Pokemon that were level 15 or higher. Fortunately for me, I chose Bulbasaur, so after grinding up my Pokemon a little, I proceeded to one-hit KO Brock's entire team with Vine Whip. The Boulder Badge was mine. 1 down, 7 to go. So apparently the shoes my character had been wearing up to this point made him physically incapable of running, but fortunately one of Professor Oak's aides gave me the running shoes. While training my Pokemon in Route 3, Bulbasaur evolved into Ivysaur, and I caught a Spearow and nicknamed him Sparrow. Yep, I'm creative alright. Upon entering Mount Moon, I also caught a Zubat and named him Batman. Yep, I'm creative alright. Getting through Mount Moon was very easy, and I was able to gather some, you guessed it, Moonstones. Just west of Cerulean City, I caught a Sandshrew and named him after an overrated Nintendo game. I knew before going through the Nugget Bridge I would have to fight Derek for the second time, so I did a little grinding in Route 4 first. The battle against Derek was going okay until he threw out Charmander. After spamming some sand attacks, Pidgeotto barely lived in Ember accompanied by Burn. I switched to Ratatouille, who also got burned by Ember, so I made the decision to keep him in to get off a Hyper Fang, and then he was killed by another Ember. Ivysaur was then able to come in and finish the job. Rattata was the first Pokemon to go down for this Nuzlocke, and spoiler alert, he wasn't the last. Through the power of technology, I helped Bill stop being a frickin' furry, and he rewarded me with the SS ticket. While battling trainers in Route 25, I also caught Big Lips the Bellsprout. Catching Big Lips on Route 25 was actually a strategic play, because that meant I would have a better chance of encountering the elusive Abra in Route 24. I walked into the grass, and there it was. so much potential in one encounter. Catching this Pokemon could give me an awesome advantage, and so after that disappointment, it was time to take out my frustration on Misty's gym. Wildvine single-handedly took care of Misty's Staryu and Starmie while also learning Razor Leaf in the process. I had gotten the Cascade badge. After getting dig back from a rocket grunt, I made my way towards Vermilion City. On my way, I caught Lucifer the Meowth, and I started fighting trainers in Route 6, when suddenly... What a shame. In Vermilion City, I got the bike voucher, but more importantly, I got the Old Rod, which I used to catch a Magikarp. I immediately trained Fishface up to level 20, because duh, and to buff up my team some more, I caught a Diglett in Diglett's Cave, who'da thought, and I caught a Drowsy in Route 11. Next, I finally boarded the SS Anne to take on more trainers. Other than Drowsy nearly being killed by a Shelder, nothing crazy happened leading up to the next rival fight. Just like Captain Insano would have done, Fishface opened up a can of whoop ass on Derek's entire team. After giving the captain a sensual massage, he gave me the HM for cut, and like I always do when playing through a Kanto game, I looked inside the puke bucket. After digging through the trash like the homeless traveler I am, I was able to challenge the third gym leader, Lieutenant Surge. After taking out Lieutenant Surge's first two Pokemon, Raichu realized it couldn't live up to the sheer magnitude of this battle, and Diglett was able to help me obtain the Thunder Badge. Before progressing through the game, I decided to get the HM Flash from one of Professor Oak's aides, but on my way back through Diglett's Cave, something happened. So I ran into a wild Dugtrio which had the ability Arena Trap, meaning I couldn't run from the battle or even switch Pokemon, and unfortunately the Dugtrio was just too strong and fast and it knocked out Wildvine. Losing your starter in a Nuzlocke is always a tough pill to swallow, but if you really think about it, Wildvine had accomplished what I needed him to. He made earning my first two gym badges very easy, and while I would have loved to have a Venusaur, it was probably for the best considering grass types aren't as useful as other types. Rest in peace, Wildvine. This hardcore Nuzlocke is for you and the other Pokemon I've caught along the way that have or eventually will die. Wildvine's death made me realize that it's time to stop screwing around. The world only makes sense if you force it to. Oh, and Big Lips also evolved. While training on Route 9, I was trying to help Diglett earn more experience, but it was killed by a Magnitude 7 from a Geodude, but I'll try to stay optimistic. I really only needed Diglett to defeat Lieutenant Surge, and besides, for Route 10 there would be a perfect opportunity to catch a new member for my team. Similarly to my Abra encounter, I was able to use Dupe's Claws to my advantage, so I could pretty much guarantee I would find a Voltorb. I caught it and named it Ball Boy. Shortly after catching Voltorb, I caught a Geodude in the Rock Tunnel and I named it The Rock. As I made my way through Rock Tunnel, I battled yet another hiker whose Geodude decided to go crazy with a Magnitude 9 and it knocked out Drowsy. And I'm not gonna pretend like I'm okay with this one. Psychic Pokemon are so good, so it really sucked. I may have named Drowsy Elephant, but there was no fun to be had at this moment. I got through the Rock Tunnel and made it to Lavender Town, where I immediately just started heading towards Celadon City. I wanted to get to Route 8 so I could go catch a Vulpix. Huh. I forgot it had Roar. Anyways, the rock evolved into Graveler, so that's pretty neat. Fortunately, I redeemed myself by catching a Vulpix on Route 7, and I named it Foxy. Once I arrived to Celadon City, I headed straight for the gym where I saw an old man staring at the pretty girls through the gym's window. Can we just take a moment of silence and recognize the fact that Nintendo changed his dialogue for future games? Batman and Foxy easily defeated all of the gym trainers, and Batman was able to go solo on Erica, earning me the Rainbow Badge. After heading to Route 16 to pick up the HM for Fly, I caught a Doduo and named it Two-Face, which I just realized is my second Pokemon to be named after a Batman character. Next, it was time to head to the game corner and push the switch behind the poster to enter the Team Rocket hideout. After battling Rocket Grunts, I came face to face with their leader, Giovanni. But little did Giovanni know, it was time for him to smell what the Rock was cooking. After winning the battle, I got the Sylph Scope and headed back to Lavender Town to scale the Pokemon Tower. After reminding Derek who the best trainer in Kanto is, I battled all of the ghost trainers, which reminds me, I completely forgot to find my encounter for the Pokemon Tower. I could have caught a Ghastly or something, but I just sprayed repels and kept making my way towards the top. Whoops. So once Foxy learned Flamethrower, I used a Firestone to make it evolve into Ninetales. As I was fighting the last Rocket Grunt to save Mr. Fuji, Voltorb got put in an awkward spot, but I figured it would outspeed the Raticate and take it out since the Raticate was paralyzed. Unfortunately, I forgot Raticate had Quick Attack and Voltorb was killed. That was just careless battling on my part. Despite that annoyance, I saved Mr. Fuji and he rewarded me with the Pokeflute. I used the Pokeflute to wake up the Snorlax on Route 12, which I ran away from since I wasn't allowing myself to catch static encounters. After fishing up a lot of duplicate Pokemon in Route 13, I finally found a level 34 Slowpoke, which I named Slowbra. This was a huge encounter. I finally had another Psychic Pokemon, rest in peace Drowsy, and in Route 15 I accidentally killed a Venonat. I sound so broken up about it, don't I? The trainers in these routes were no issue and Slowpoke evolved into Slowbro, my favorite Pokemon. Before taking on the Fuchsia City Gym, I went through the Safari Zone to get HM Surf while catching an Nidoran along the way. I also gave the Warden his gold teeth in exchange for HM Strength. After training at the Fighting Dojo in Saffron City, I was finally ready to try and earn my 5th gym badge. Because Koga is a poison type trainer and I couldn't use healing items in battle, I strategically gave a Pekka Berry to my main Pokemon I planned on using in the battle. Giving a Pekka Berry to both Slowbro and Graveler proved to be very useful as both had to come into effect during the battle. I was able to finish off Koga's wheezing with Golbat and I was awarded with the Soul Badge. Before heading back to Saffron City, I flew over to the power plant in hopes of catching a new electric Pokemon to replace Voltorb. Luckily, I found a Magneton and named it Mr. Electric after the classic villain from The Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl played by George Lopez. Before I could try to earn my 6th badge, I would have to fight a lot of Rocket Grunts in the Sylph Company in Saffron City. I decided to use all this battling as an opportunity to train up the Nidoran I caught in the Safari Zone. Fortunately, it didn't get murdered and eventually it evolved fully into Nidoking. After fighting every single trainer, and I mean every single trainer, I went to the 7th floor to take on Derek. I'm not gonna lie, this was my toughest battle against my rival up to this point. His Pokemon hit mine with a lot of really powerful moves, and by the time he only had his Alakazam left, almost my whole team was sitting at half health or less. Thankfully, Alakazam managed to hit himself in confusion twice in a row, and Ninetales finished him off with a Flamethrower. To wrap up the Sylph Company, I had Slowbro and Graveler tag team for the battle against Giovanni, and I received the Master Ball from the President of Sylph. Now that Team Rocket wasn't terrorizing the city, I could finally challenge the gym. Since most of the Saffron City Gym's trainers are psychic, I'm sure they all shuddered when they saw me walk through the door. They already knew the main character of this game was arriving to sweep the floor with them. Because Sabrina is such a tough trainer, I had to create some sort of plan to defeat her. Since my Slowbro had learned Amnesia and he's part psychic, I figured bulking up his special defense and just hammering away at Sabrina's Pokemon would be an effective way to win. And needless to say, it worked. You'd think Sabrina would have been able to foresee my strategy with her psychic powers, but looks like I outsmarted her. To get the 7th badge, I had to surf south of Pallet Town to Cinnabar Island. In Route 21, I had an annoying time trying to catch a Tangela, but when it finally stayed in the Ultra Ball, I named it Pasta. I then proceeded to wash away all of the swimmers and fishermen, arriving to Cinnabar Island. To unlock the door to the gym, I would first have to explore the Pokemon Mansion to find the secret key. While I was in the mansion battling trainers and learning about the origin of Mew through some journals, I caught a Grimer and named it Raw Sewage. Like I usually do, I fought every trainer in Blaine's gym without answering a single trivia question. What do I look like, a nerd to you? With my Slowbro, Gyarados, and Graveler, I felt very confident about my chances with Blaine. He told me I better have Burn Heal, but I should have told him that he better have a Snorkel because I was gonna surf all over him. Foxy was able to knock out Blaine's Rapidash to win me the battle and the Volcano badge. Upon exiting Blaine's gym, Bill stopped me and offered me to come with him to the Sevi Islands. I could have said no, but going to the Sevi Islands meant I would have had more trainers to battle, so I accepted. Of course, being the main character of this game, I'm never allowed to go to a new area without people making me do stuff. Basically, Bill's friend Celio needed to upgrade the PC system or something, so they gave me the meteorite to deliver to some guy on 2 Island. But before heading to 2 Island, I explored 1 Island to battle trainers, and I also caught a ponyta. I sailed to 2 Island to deliver the meteorite, but wouldn't you know it, the dude's daughter was missing. I'm not a cop, but apparently it becomes my responsibility to bring home his daughter, Lestelle. You could say he lost Lestelle. I'm sorry kids, don't talk to strangers. So as I was getting ready to leave 2 Island, I ran through the grass and found a shiny Weepin' Bell. I don't know what the deal is with people doing Nuzlocks and finding shiny Pokemon, but I feel like it happens a lot. Obviously, I ignored my rules for a second to catch it with the Master Ball. When I got to 3 Island, I battled a bunch of bikers who were causing a ruckus, but while battling a Weezing, I thought I'd be smart and dig with Nidoking to avoid a potential self-destruct, but I was 1 turn early, so Nidoking emerged from the ground and Weezing blew up in its face. Aside from that stupid battling by me, I took care of all of the trainers on 3 Island pretty easily. I scurried through the berry forest and defeated the Hypno to rescue Lestelle. So after literally recovering a missing child, I finally gave Lestelle's dad the meteorite. Bill and Celio gave me nothing in return for my services, and we headed back to Cinnabar Island. Now it was time to head back to Viridian City to take on the 8th and final gym leader. Now in my opinion, Giovanni's gym is a bit of a joke for supposedly being the hardest gym. The trainers are all super easy if you know what you're doing, and... No! Okay, well, despite Gyarados almost facing his untimely demise, the gym is still very easy. After defeating all of the trainers, it was time to fight Giovanni one last time. After knocking out his first 4 Pokemon, Slowbro's health was a little low, so I didn't want to switch to Gyarados because a Rock-type move could really mess him up. So I decided to sacrifice Pidgeotto to get a free switch. But for some reason, Rhyhorn just wanted to use Scary Face several times in a row, so while he was doing that, I lowered his accuracy a bunch with Sand Attack. After Pidgeotto took a takedown like a frickin' champ, I switched to Gyarados to knock Rhyhorn out. Giovanni gave me the Earth Badge, and that was it. All the gym badges were in my possession, so there was just one thing left to do. Head to Victory Road and the Pokemon League. After I fight Derek, of course. Now to prepare for this battle, I had put Grimer in my party to use as a potential free switch should I need it. After taking out Pidgeot and Execute, Derek sent out Alakazam, and this is where things got hairy. I sacrificed Grimer to get a free switch to Magneton. I wanted to paralyze Alakazam just to slow it down a little, but unfortunately I forgot Alakazam had Synchronize, so now Magneton was paralyzed. During all of this, Alakazam used Calm Mind twice, which was pretty frickin' sus, as the kids would say. Before I could even try to confuse it, Alakazam came back with a critical hit Psychic, knocking out Magneton. It sucked that Magneton was defeated, but I was more concerned if I was even gonna win the battle. Alakazam boosted his special attack and defense twice. I was going to need the paralysis to kick in. Gyarados came back with a strength, and luckily for me, Alakazam was fully paralyzed. That was close. Rhyhorn went down to 1 Surf, and then Derek switched to his Gyarados. I decided to risk switching Golbat in and live with the consequences, and thankfully Hydro Pump missed and he was able to use Confuse Ray. After whittling its health down with Golbat and Slowbro, I brought my Gyarados back in to finish the job. Couple of surfs later, I knocked out Charizard. Losing Magneton wasn't ideal, but the battle could have gone much worse, so I counted my blessings and moved on. Before making my way through Victory Road, I had 2 more encounters to get in Victory Road itself and in Route 23. In Victory Road, I found a Machop and named it Chuck, but more importantly, in Route 23, I found a Primeape and named it Piggy. I love Primeape. It's probably in my top 10 most favorite Pokemon of all time. So now it was time to enter the Victory Road. I know the Victory Road strength puzzle like the back of my hand, so my only concern going in was just to make sure I wasn't stupid when battling the trainers. So Graveler got crit by a flamethrower and almost frickin' died. Although I won't lie, fighting the trainers in Victory Road can be a lot of fun because of the wide variety of Pokemon you face. After defeating the cool couple, I emerged from Victory Road without any casualties. All that was standing between me and completing my first hardcore Nuzlocke was the Elite Four. Needless to say, I did a lot of preparing for the Pokemon League. Because the final member's strongest Pokemon is level 60, I trained all my Pokemon to level 60. But unfortunately, when I was training off screen, Primeape got killed in Victory Road, so I trained Chuck the Machop up to a level 60 Machoke to fill the fighting type void. After carefully considering movesets and held items, I was finally ready to take on the first member of the Elite Four, Lorelei. My strategy against Lorelei was pretty simple: open with Slowbro and boost his stats with Calm Mind. I had also gave him leftovers, which I got using the item finder in both areas where you find Snorlax. With the leftovers activating every turn and its special defense continuing to increase, Slowbro became a tank. I knocked out Dewgong with a couple of Brick Breaks to begin the sweep. Then I one-hit KO'd her Ace, Lapras, and also Cloyster. Things got a tad awkward when Lorelei's Slowbro came out since it resisted all my attacking moves, but because I had raised my Slowbro's special attack so high, Psychic was able to still do a pretty good chunk of damage. Finally, Jinx went down with 2 Brick Breaks. 1 member down, 3 to go. Bruno is probably one of the easiest Elite Four members in the history of Pokemon games. His Pokemon aren't necessarily bad, they're just really easy to take down if you know what you're dealing with. Instead of setting up a few Calm Minds on Onix, I took him out in hopes of setting up on Hitmonchan instead. The reason I did this is because Bruno's first Onix has Roar, and I didn't want to risk having Slowbro being pulled out of the battle. Hitmonchan, on the other hand, has 3 fighting moves and Rock Tomb, so that worked out much better. 3 Psychics and 1 Surf later, Bruno was defeated. Up next was Agatha. Instead of using exclusively Slowbro for this battle, I decided to lead with Golbat. All of Agatha's Pokemon are female, which means I could teach my male Golbat Attract. Golbat also knew Confuse Ray and resisted poison, so this was how I was gonna mess with Agatha's team. I put the black glasses on Golbat as well to boost his biting power. While kind of monotonous, my strategy seemed to be working. I was able to knock out both her Gengars and Haunter. Once she sent out her Golbat, I switched back to my bread and butter Slowbro. Psychic one-hit KO'd her Golbat and Arbok, winning me the battle. After a long walk down the ominous hallway, it was time to challenge the final member of the Elite Four. Even though Lance leads with his Gyarados, I decided to lead with Graveler because his Gyarados actually doesn't have any water-type moves. Rock Slide got a critical hit, and just like that, 1 Pokemon down. I switched to Slowbro and was able to knock out both Dragonairs with a Calm Mind boosted Ice Beam. Dragonite hit Slowbro back with a wing attack, but it was unable to survive an Ice Beam. Slowbro then one-hit KO'd Aerodactyl with Surf to finish the battle. Now, unless you don't know much about Pokemon, we all know this battle wasn't the end. We still had to take on our rival, Derek, one final time for all the marbles. I'm the Pokemon League champion. Evan, do you know what this means? I'll tell you. I am the most powerful trainer in the world. Man, this song is so frickin' epic, I love it. Like I predicted, Derek had his Pidgeot use Feather Dance to start the battle, which is why I led with Slowbro instead of Graveler. After a Calm Mind boosted Ice Beam, Pidgeot went down. Derek sent out Gyarados, so I switched to Golbat to try and mess with it by using Confuse Ray and Bite. Gyarados, however, fought through the confusion and hit Golbat with a crit Hydro Pump. It was unfortunate because I had Golbat since Mount Moon, but in the final battle, it's okay to lose Pokemon as long as you come out victorious. I brought in my own Gyarados and risked it with an inaccurate Thunder, but it hit. Gyarados easily defeated Rhydon with a single Surf, and next up was Alakazam. He had killed my Magneton, and it was time for my revenge. After trading attack after attack, Gyarados hit Alakazam with a crit Surf to take him out. Ninetales obliterated Exeggutor with a critical hit Flamethrower, and last was Charizard. Derek, being the utter buffoon he is, thought a Fire Blast could do damage to Ninetales, but it only raised its power. I switched to Graveler to dump a ton of rocks on Charizard, and that's all she wrote. And I just realized Machoke never even saw the battlefield throughout the entire Elite Four. I guess he was just moral support. I had become the Pokemon League champion, officially completing my first attempt at a hardcore Nuzlocke. There were a lot of moments where my lack of Nuzlocking experience showed, but there were also moments where my knowledge of the game gave me an advantage. I definitely think the luxury of being able to speed up the emulator caused me to make some stupid mistakes here and there, but overall, I had a lot of fun doing this hardcore Nuzlocke, and that's what it's all about. Fun and friendship. I don't know. If you liked this video, quit being a goober and check out my other videos, and I'll see you all in the next video, so stay tuned for more.